So I was just sitting down to meditate, and I wanted to share that with you. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what meditation has to do with social and political transformation. Because, lots of times political people, and when I say political, I don't mean government as much as I mean kind of the political culture that we're in. Um, and lots of times, people who are engaged with projects of social and political transformation think that something like meditation is passive or escapist or removing us from the world. And it is the case that, I do know lots of people on a meditative path that don't want anything to do with the world. And so that's not an unfounded presumption. But, my experience coming into a meditative path from a background in feminism and international politics and being involved with social and political transformational projects, movements, is that, meditation actually took me to a place in me that has so much to offer our movements. Uh, in fact, I think movements without an anchor in meditative or contemplative practices actually has us a bit unmoored, right? And a bit untethered in what we're seeking to do. There are books, that we can read about consciousness-based practices and their contribution to political change and social change. So, one of them that comes to mind is called Subtle Activism, which kind of gives you a lot of examples of where group meditations have changed political outcomes. There's also, other authors. There's books, Practical Visionary, I think, is another book that you can look at that's about consciousness-based practices that change the world. But really what I'm talking about is my experience. And my experience as a politically minded person who found something so powerful about meditative practices. And so, everything that we see in the world is reflective of a consciousness. We have economic systems that prioritize greed and scarcity. And that's a consciousness. That's a consciousness about what's true and what's possible, right? It's a consciousness of scarcity that keeps us very afraid and keeps us very greedy and keeps us working and keeps the system going, okay? We have a consciousness of patriarchy, right? A patriarchal consciousness that assumes and institutionalizes that men and masculinity are more valuable to society than femininity and women. And we see that playing out all the time, right? And that's a consciousness that brought those things into existence. When we sit in meditation, we are tapping into consciousness. We're tapping into a collective consciousness. We're tapping into our own consciousness of authenticity and truth and what's real. And as we do that, as we hone our consciousness by practicing meditation around authenticity and truth, right, we start to bring that consciousness into everything that we're doing. And what we're tapping into, what is authentic and true about us, is not scarcity and greed and division and separation. In fact, those are the illusions that we have created in the world. That the truth of us is that we are connected, that we are inherently, intrinsically connected to something that is transcendent about us and about everybody. When we sit in meditation and we connect with that transcendent part of us, we start to grow, we start to cultivate that sense of ourselves that's much bigger than ego, that's much bigger than mind, that's much bigger than these bodies, that's much truer than this world of separation. And we start to bring that sense of unity consciousness into the world, into what we're doing, into our social and political work. It gives our work conviction. It anchors us in truth. The fact is that the movements of feminism or critical race theory or decolonialism or anything that we might be involved with are all about healing that sense of separation and coming into a deeper harmony, balance, and union with each other. And so what I'm saying to you is that unity consciousness is here in the midst of us. It's not outside of us, and it's more true than anything else that we're experiencing in the world of separation. And so this, I'm saying, is why we meditate. Why meditation serves our movements of social justice and transformation just as much as a meditative practice serves our personal transformation. So we come into a deeper union with ourselves, that we heal the fragmentation and alienation that's within us. It's the same thing on a collective level, that we're healing the alienation and fragmentation between us, that's within us and between us. And so this is how we start to create a different kind of world. It comes from a different consciousness than what created this world. So let's sit for a moment. Let's sit together and have that meditative experience, tapping into our unity consciousness. Just take a deep breath and exhale. And as you exhale, let all the breath come out of you. So clearing out stagnation, old stuff we don't need. And when you inhale till your belly is big and fill up your entire torso, and exhale, let all the air go. And breathe in again and inhale into your belly. And sometimes it takes a moment for the breath to drop in. So with each breath, maybe your belly gets a little bigger. Maybe your ribs start to stretch. You don't want to force it. Don't struggle. Just allow. We're allowing the breath to drop in. We're allowing the torso to open up. We're allowing the flow to move through us. And just notice that breath, keeping in mind that this is more than just respiration, that it is life force, cosmic life force flowing through us, creative life force that's breathing us. That's the same creative life force that courses through all of life, that shows up in infinite variety and individual expression. Just by noticing this breath, we're remembering our unity, remembering our connection. And that's partly why our nervous systems relax, as we're just reminding ourselves that we're not alone. that we've never been alone. We're just leaving the external world behind for the moment as we retreat within. And close your eyes is the easiest way to cut the external stimulation. We come within to this internal landscape with kindness and compassion, as meditation is, in part, a practice of compassion. And so we just show ourselves the same thing. And just come with a little curiosity, too, about this inner landscape that we might not come into contact with that often. So there's lots to explore. And even if we are regular meditators, there's always more. There's always more to discover about our interior life. We spend so much time in the external. We spend so much time in ego. We don't spend as much time here in our authentic, core, essential selves, to come with a little interest to discover what is true, what is real, what is eternal. So we're dropping in, dropping in, dropping in, and letting go of the idea of control, letting go of the illusions, letting go of the inner conflicts. We're laying down the fight by just being still, by just being still. Now the mind might chatter, often does, but see if you can notice the chatter without getting involved in the content of the mind. You notice it, you can say to yourself, thinking, thoughts, and just watch them like you're watching them on a screen. Or maybe you're watching them pour out of a spout, undifferentiated thoughts pouring out. However you can, stay out of getting involved with those thoughts. Choose that and let them pass. Every time you get caught in distraction, just bring your attention back to the breath, back to the center of you, back to the practice. And in fact, every time you come back is part of the practice. Right? Think of meditation as a practice where you're building the pathways, the neural pathways to find your stillness. You're building chemical responses in your brain so that when you're practicing on a regular basis, that brain chemistry of meditation starts to come sooner. Sometimes as soon as you sit down, you can feel it. That your basic chemistry changes. You're building responses in your whole system that bring you into a rest and digest state where you're able to assimilate, integrate, process a world of stimulation and let go of, release anything that you don't need. It's like the waste product. So you're giving yourself a chance to clear and cleanse your whole system while you're dropping in to make contact with the essence of you. When you make contact with truth, everything unlike truth falls away. This is one of the great gifts of meditation. It clears your windows of perception. We see more clearly. We see beyond the illusion. And we hold the vision of something greater than this. Take a moment to appreciate yourself for sitting. I appreciate you for sitting. I appreciate you for joining me today. There's some wonderful things emerging on the planet at the level of consciousness. I just invite you to notice that as you move through your day. Peace.